Good morning, good afternoon. Let me have a look. Does this look correct? Hello, hello. Let me get this where it should be. Good day, everyone. I hope you are all safe and well. Obviously, it is Sunday because we are live again. Tonight, we've got plenty to talk about. And we're going to be talking about the HDZero news because there is actually two bits of news around HDZero. We're going to be talking about them in relation to these, the Orqa FPV1 pilots. We're going to talk as well about the announced delays on the new VRXs. We'll then talk a bit about these and the new firmware that has released for these in the last couple of days as well. And we will talk about everything else that's gone on this week, including a little bit about antenna VSWR, some of these new TX modules from Beta FPV, because there is a 1 watt one, which I'm currently in the process of finishing my review. Or in fact, to rephrase that, take the review I made, completely bin it, and starting again because it just ended up too big, too long, and didn't really properly reflect anything. And Express ELRS 2.1, which ties into these as well. And we'll probably talk a little bit about this too, the DJI Action Cam, the Action 2, because there has been a firmware update for this, which has made some quite interesting improvements. And I have to say, DJI have done a lot with this since it's released, and it really probably warrants a second review of this product now, because so many of the little niggles have changed. It's actually much better than it was, although the one big niggle is still there, that UK users can't access the high temp mode. As always, guys, I'll answer any questions you guys have got along the way, jumping over to the screen to have a look at the chat. Good evening, Mike. How are you? Steve? Hello. Hello to Jura FPV. Iglazoo. I can't even go there on that one. Duck my squee. How are you, my friend? Jody, good evening. Peppermint. These are Peppermint's pilots. These are Peppermint pilot. These are Peppermint pilots. If that makes sense. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hello, Brandon. How are you? Good evening, Robert. So, yes, these are Peppermint's goggles. Yeah, I met up with him in the week. I couldn't make him have a coffee, no matter how hard I tried, but he has ridiculously kindly lent me his new Orqa FPV pilots. And I'm going to try not to say too much about these today, because the review is going to come, and it's a very, very nice set of goggles, but I don't know if they're for me. What I will say is I want to love these goggles so much. I really do. But we won't talk about that. And then we'll talk a little bit about this before we start the show as well, which is the ruler, because it's finished and it's gone off to be ordered. So, as always, guys, if you do have any questions, please do put them in the comment section. I'm going to get the shilling out the way early doors. If you are new here, welcome. Hello, hello, hello. If you're not a subscriber, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. If you want a question answered, guaranteed, I'm going to do the JB now. Super chats are always welcome. They are open to everyone to use if you want to support the channel. There is also a link to my Patreon as well as buy me a coffee as well. But I will answer your question regardless of if you pay me to or not, because that's how we do things here. Now, I hope you're all safe and well, and it's been an interesting week. It's beginning to get very busy in the world out there, and things are beginning to get back to normal. And I have done a few flights this week, nothing fantastic, just a very few quick ones. The light level in the UK is changing pretty quickly. We're already getting towards it being lighter out, and the weather is looking better overall here at the moment. I do have a cup of tea that was hiding behind the Mambo there, so I'm going to take a sip from that. Orqa is getting a lot of attention till the next big thing comes out. Yeah, there is a lot of attention to be had right now from Orqa, HDZero, and actually I was talking about this a little bit earlier, that there is more interest in these things than, say, on the DJI side of things. So it is very, very interesting. Hi, everybody. Demands fresh tea. It's always a good idea to have a fresh tea. So let me get myself set up. I'm going to get that off the screen because I'm going to cut a couple of these for the live streamers, for the clips this week as well, because I'm beginning to run out of content that I pre-recorded. So the first thing to talk about is the new Orqa pilots. And the first thing I want to mention is the fact that there is new firmware for these goggles. They have released the first update. I have not installed it on these because it is a beta update, and I don't want to change anything on Pepperpin's goggles, and also change something that may affect the review. So I'm not going to update his unless he wants me to before I send them back. At the moment, I'm running the stock firmware on them. However, if I hop over to the desktop, they have released version 3.01 beta for the pilots, as well as the original Orqa 1 goggles. Now, they have put a little bit of a blog post up on this. You might not be able to find this blog post on their website because I can't. I had to get to this blog post through a link on their Facebook page, and when you go to the blogs, it's not showing, which is just bizarre. And I have to say, that's one thing I will complain at Orqa about. Their website is shocking at times. It really, really is. However, this is a new version of firmware for the pilots as well as the original FPV-1s that contains bug fixes, changes, and they've included the instructions. Now, in the pilots specifically, they fixed an issue with analog aspect ratio, they fixed an issue with the playback not working properly, and fixed an issue with auto DVR. I can say up front, I've not seen any of them because I've only got limited time on these at the moment, and they say there's other minor bug fixes as well. Changes in this is a new graphical user interface update. I don't know what that looks like yet. I'm intrigued to have a look at that, so let me know, Peppermint, what you want to do. Do you want me to install it or not, or do you want me to hold back? And they've said there's performance improvements. The interesting thing for this as well, this update is for the original FPV-1s as well. And anyone who's currently on 2.51 can do the update to this new version as well, which includes no bug fixes, but what they say is it brings the new graphical interface and the performance improvements to the version 1 goggles as well. So that's some good news. It is interesting to see Orqa push an update out so quickly. There are a few quirks on these at the moment. I'll be honest, I have noticed there is a bug which I've had happen 3 times on the bench, with the goggles basically completely lock up and you end up having to take the power out and put it back in. Ivan did reply to me actually on the Orqa Discord group about it, and they think it's related to too many or too fast button presses. I can't 100% say that's the case, but I would agree it seems to be around that. It's not something I can replicate, but it's something I've had happen. It doesn't happen if you're just flying with them. It seems to be that if you're fumbling around the buttons, it will just lock up and the screens go completely black. They're powered up, all the lights are on, but you just can't do nothing. I think it's done it 3 times with me now. It's not something I would mark the goggles down for. It's worth mentioning that it is there, and I think it's just as a result of the new hardware and the new firmware, but they do know about it. It's not fixed in this firmware revision, as I understand it, but they are looking into it at the moment as well. But it is interesting to see that they have pushed an update out, and that does help with this as well. Now, whilst talking about the Orqas, but before we move on to HDZero, it's a good time to drop into the statement that was released on both sides with regards to Orqa and HDZero, because at the release of these goggles, Orqa were very open to working with HDZero and getting full support for the module on these goggles via their digital connector on the top. For those who don't know, you've got this custom connector here, and it's very strange. It looks like a SIM card slot, and this provides not only video input, but it also provides power as well. And it's almost, they're aiming for it to be a cableless solution for integrating digital systems, and they were very keen on doing that with HDZero. Carl this week put up a statement to say that they're not going to be developing a custom module for this Orqa connector. They don't feel it brings any benefit to the HDZero system, and they intend to basically carry on their own path with A, their own goggles, but B, with HDMI. So they've sort of closed the door on a custom HDZero version module with this dedicated connector. And as a response to that, I'll just put the desktop back up. Orqa put out this statement, Orqa Immersion RC. And what they've said is their goggles are digital ready with a front port for clean digital receiver interface to the goggles. Even though they would love to have support for this new HDZero receiver, it seems that that will not happen in the near term. And that, again, is a reply from the HDZero guys, Carl, saying basically we're not going to make a customized version and it will continue to be supported via HDMI. But they go on to say that since this port supplies power as well as high-speed digital input, USB port, analog inputs, and other goodies, Orqa will quickly release an accessory board which provides power to the HDZero, eliminating the need for bulky failure Y cables. So what it looks like is they're looking to make a module that will come out of that to power the standard HDZero receiver, which is this one here. Interesting, when you look at this, it doesn't say they're going to bring video input via that, because I'm guessing that connector doesn't have HDMI. It just has a different form of digital, but they're looking to bring power, and hopefully that'll get rid of the Y cable as well. They have talked about there's new firmware to come in as well to better support the HDZero 16:9 as well as 4:3 camera, and they go on to then talk about Immersion RC, where they're looking to integrate Ghost receiver into the HDZero transmitter board, but it's simply not worth it. And HDZero, and they basically, Immersion RC is working on a custom flight controller with Ghost built in, which is quite interesting. I didn't find it super interesting early doors, but I am a little bit more interested now. Ghost is something that's now on my next radar of RC systems I want to be taking a look at. And both of these flight controllers will offer solder-free connections. So the basics of all of this is we have HDZero basically saying they are not going to make a customized module for these goggles. You have Orqa saying they would have liked that to happen, but it isn't going to happen. But they're going to make a DC output board for this, so you don't have to have the horrible Y cable. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The Y cable really is not the problem using HDZero on these goggles. The Y cable is not the issue. The issue is the HDMI cable. And for those who do watch my Discord, let me just find the image. It'll be over here, and I will pop it up just to show you guys. It really isn't the cable that's the issue. The cable that's the problem is HDMI. The simple reality is that is the one that is causing the most issues. I seem to have lost the picture. HDZero it might be under. Did I shove it under HDZero? No, it's not under HDZero. I thought I put it under Orqa. No, not under there. Okay, what I'll do is I'll find it on the Orqa page, because I did put it on the Orqa page as well. There it is. And this was the I Am Borg picture. And this is the problem right now, is because whilst, yes, this cable is a little bit messy, the real messy one is this. Now, there are better solutions out there than this. This was just a quick cable that I got in the UK. There is some right-angled HDMI cables that you can get, some flat ones, ribbon cables that you can go up and around. But again, for me, it's not the power cable that's that messy. It's the HDMI. So whilst it's nice that Orqa are going to bring this board, I would have preferred a better input connector on that rather than for the HDMI rather than the DC. But we're going to have to see. It should be interesting. It should be interesting. Just catching up on the chat. So great support from Peppermint Pilot. So we'll come on demands onto HDZero modules in a minute. 10k this afternoon. Very nice, my friend. Be interesting to see how much Orqa changed the goggles internals. They mentioned they stopped featured around for version 1. I think there must be a huge amount of changes because these goggles now support up to 6S. They also have over voltage and reverse polarity voltage protection, and they say they've moved the DC board off into a separate board. There must be a fair amount of changes on these. There must be a fair amount of changes. How do I like the field of view from the Orqa V2s? Kevin, I am trying not to say too much because I've got a review coming on these, and I don't want to go into too much. What I'm going to say is this. The field of view is not the issue for me with these goggles. Okay? Saying this bit, for me, it sits somewhere between my Dominator V3s and my Scout HDs. That's where it sits and feels. Overall, the field of view is okay. I don't have a massive complaint about the field of view. I would have liked it larger, 100%. But I'm not sitting here saying, oh my God, that's way too small. I have other issues with the optics, which I'll talk about in the review. Andy, did they sell a different cover if you want to put Fusion Bay? Not at the moment, and that bay doesn't fit cover. Funny enough, me and Peppermint were talking about that, and I haven't seen any printed ones yet, but hopefully they'll be available shortly. What's the issue with the HDMI? On what GMI? Is awkward to plug in, I imagine. It's okay. It's fine on the goggle side. It's just it sticks out. You need out 90-degree ones, and there's some good ones on Banggood, which are ribbon ones, which have a flat PCB, but none of these solutions are perfect. We could do with a real dedicated cable for this. Orqa could really do with making a nice cable for this. The real frustration is, and this is a genuine frustration I have, Orqa, in my opinion, would have been better putting a larger cover area here. Let me just get the overhead on. I haven't actually turned that on today. Is that working? Nope. Try it now. Nope. Oh, here it goes. The Sony's playing up. Way. Okay, so Let's get that out of the way a minute. Right, so you've got this digital connector here, and just to show you guys this a bit more, I can't show you a lot on it because there really isn't much to show. So you pull this out, which looks like an SD card slot, and you've got this really fine digital connector. Okay, and then that just slides in. Personally, I think they would have been better making a bigger cutout here, which is removable, which had 2 ports, one HDMI port and a power port. And that way, you could have had the HDMI coming up over the top to here. Because for me, the biggest complaint with the HDMI is it's got to come around the side to here. You know, you're having to come around here. That's the... If it was up to there, it would have been cleaner. Now, I know what Orqa have done. They have created this proprietary connector that they want everyone to come on board with, and they're willing to work with people to do that. However, the reality is, as we've seen with HDZero, they don't want to work with them on that, and they want to do what everyone else is doing, use HDMI or integrate it into their own goggles. So this is a classic example of a manufacturer creating a dedicated port that doesn't suit other vendors of third-party devices, and they're not interested in using it. As Failsafe says, it may have advantages over HDMI latency-wise. It probably will, but is that enough to make a difference? I'm not saying it won't have some advantages. And the real cleverness of this port, if they do this, and that's if they do this, is have the ability for their own digital VTX to synchronize the scan rate between the camera and the display screens. Because the big issue at the moment, and one of the issues within HDZero is, and it's not really an issue, but it's the reality of the system, is the camera's scanning at one rate and the screens are scanning at another rate. And depending on what the screens are doing, whether they're dropping an image from a buffer, bam, like that in one hit, or they're actually scanning top left to bottom right, will depend on how fast that image hits the screen. And this is why with HDZero, you can actually get a variance in the latency between goggles, because some goggles will buffer the whole image and just refresh it, 60 frames a second, 120 frames, maybe 30 frames a second, whereas other systems will write it line by line. So there is the possibility with this connector that perhaps they can fully synchronize camera to display, which would improve latency. It isn't something I think HDZero is going to dramatically benefit from, but Carl, I think, if I read rightly, is looking into it as part of his goggles and trying to be able to synchronize end to end, because that way you've got the camera running, the lines are the same as the displays, and you're basically scanning exactly the same point in time, even if there's a latency delay. So if you imagine, that's the latency delay, this is the camera scanning, and this is the screen, you're scanning like that, the time between them remains the same, and it does that. So it is possible that their connector does that. However, it is always a combination of whenever you go down the road of proprietary, trying to get people on board becomes a complicating factor. And for HDZero to integrate that connector is probably going to take more hardware, and that adds cost, and who wants to pay for that? So, Orqa have been very quiet on this connector. We don't know anything about it other than it provides power and video input. I do wonder if it's based on the display port specification and not HDMI, because HDMI and DisplayPort are completely different specifications. I don't know if you guys know, but HDMI is a licensable port. So you have to pay, I think it's roughly $4 a device if you have HDMI on your unit, to the HDMI consortium. So every device that has HDMI, you have to pay $4 a sale, and that's why many people don't do it. Whereas DisplayPort is completely free. There is no licensing requirement for DisplayPort. So I do wonder if they're using like DisplayPort for it, because DisplayPort is a bit like PCI Express. I don't know if you guys understand how PCI Express works. Is PCI Express is like you got lanes, and you can add more lanes for more speed. So like the high-end graphics cards, like I've got 16 lanes. You got a graphics card with 4 lanes, and they have a throughput per device. And DisplayPort's the same. You can have multiple lanes for different amounts of data. So I wouldn't be shocked if they're using DisplayPort. We need more proprietary standards. But yeah, so, you know, the reality is today that HDZero are not going to make a module to fit this. Orqa are going to make a power board, so that'll be cool. It would be nice if they could just make like a ribbon power board cable that comes out and round. On goggles, pricey. Trying to save $4 is very sad. Yeah, and these do have HDMI. You know, look, they have done it on these. These have the best of both. You have HDMI and this new port. So, to be fair to Orqa, there's no cost saving on these. You've got HDMI there, and you've got their port there. So, you've got both. It's not an issue on these goggles. But what might have been better for... I am wondering if the Raspberry Pi managed to get a deal because it's designed for educational purposes. They may have an agreement in place. They may have an agreement in place. The official licensing cost for HDMI is about $4 a unit sold. But that's obviously for officially supported HDMI. There's a lot of equipment out there that isn't officially HDMI. But I wouldn't be shocked if something like the Raspberry Pi Foundation doesn't even pay. I bet, because things like that get involved, because it is a foundation thing. I wonder if there's anything ever been said about that. I'm just wondering. So yeah, so that's the situation with Orqa. So new updates, new firmware. I'm trying not to say too much on these goggles because I've got a little bit of time on them. I have some opinions. I have expressed some of those opinions on my Discord server. The quality's nice. There's a lot to like here, but I do have something I don't like about the optics that I'm trying to understand. And I'm not saying it's bad. They're very clear. They're very good. However, this optical effect for me is a potential issue personally. So that's the thing with that. And again, I will talk about it in the review. But what else? See, I'm going too far now, but I'm going to do it because you guys are fantastic. Okay, so because I put it on the Discord, so I'm going to say it. I am noticing the screens look very good. The field of view is fine. However, in my view, I am very much noticing the optics. So the right term to use is this. All of my other FPV goggles, the displays hang in a black background. Apart from the DJIs, you can't see the black background because they're. However, if I take my Dominator V3s, even the Scout HDs, what you have is a completely blackness and then the display sitting there. Even on my Dominator V3s, I have no visibility of the optics themselves. However, with the Orqas, I have a tunneling effect that you can see the screens. You have then the field of view around the screen from the optics, which is round. So you imagine you have a square screen, and then you have the field of view of the optic lens around that, and it's only just bigger than that. And then you have this like tunnel effect, and basically it feels like I'm looking down a tunnel, and the light is reflecting off the optics. So when I look through it, I can see like a screen at the end of a tunnel rather than just screens hanging in the background, if that makes sense. And that's the bit I'm disappointed in. It's not that the screens look tiny, because they don't. The screens look fine. The screen looks really clear, but there is no getting away from the fact I can see the optics in the goggles, and I don't like that. I'm not used to that in any of my other goggles. I'm really interested, do the Sky Zone 04s do that? I'm really interested in knowing that as well. Yeah, the optics are in a tube, and that's what you see, and what it's quite distracting. That when you're looking at the screens and you're looking around the edges for your OSD, because you do still need to move your eyes about, you can see the optics at the sides, and that's the bit I'm not 100% at all happy with. The screen looks nice, really nice. The size is smaller than I would like. I'm not going to say it isn't. However, it's okay. The menus are really nice, but it is this distraction of looking at this tubular effect. And part of this is probably because the field of view spot, so if you imagine that it was a torchlight, is so close to the edges of the screens. You've got the screen, which is obviously 4:3, and you have then this window that you're looking through, and it is only just bigger than that screen. And I can adjust I can adjust the convergence of the optics either side, the focus in and out, and all of that's fine. But I don't ever get a point that I'm not seeing that tunneling effect. So I want to play more. I need to play more. I'm intrigued. Does anyone have the V1s? Does anyone have the V1s? I never tried them. Is it the same on them? What I'm used to is screens hanging in a completely black background. Don't get me wrong, if I look to the side, I understand I'm going to see something. I have the V1s. Do you notice that in the V1s, Nick? Is that the kind of effect you're seeing? Behave, Bruce. Just reading up. Yeah, the optics are in a tube. No, it's not like that on the V1s. Has anyone seen anyone else say about this tunneling effect? Is it possible this is just me on my eye distance from the lenses? I'm intrigued if anyone else has mentioned this at all on any of the other reviews. Steely mentioned it. Did he? Okay, Bruce. I've not seen Steely's. Says exactly the same thing. Right. So it's not me being a madman then. Okay. Brilliant. That makes me feel a bit better. Steely mentioned it. The tubes. Brilliant. Okay, that's something I need to go and look at. Brilliant, brilliant. Do you know what? It actually makes me feel a bit better, because I've been a bit sort of, look, I don't want to slag them off. To my work, so I don't get that feeling. I don't even it's not even the same as looking down the microscope. It's I'm seeing exactly the same on my 04Xs. That's interesting. So I do wonder if it's related to how close your own eyes go to the lenses and stuff like that. It doesn't mean you're not strange. Good evening from Berlin. Good evening. So that, at the moment, that for me is a bit of a deal breaker. I love the goggles, I've got to say, and I love the goggles. I love the fit and feel. I like the Cybertruck look. I like the adjustability. The screens are clear. Field of view is a bit small for me. I would have preferred it bigger. I could certainly live with it. I would certainly live with it. However, I think that effect is a deal breaker for me personally. It just is too distracted. But we'll have to see. I want more flight time on them this week before making a full decision. You know, look, I've had them a few days now. I picked them up middle of the week. I could put the review up tomorrow. I want to be as open and honest on them as I can. Good evening, Jason. How you doing? I think they're a nice goggle. I wanted them to be perfect. I'm just not convinced they are. So, catching up on the chat. Botgrinder says the same thing. I know Bot was hanging back on his video. Yeah. It's a bit of a shame. It's a bit of a shame, and it's like the light's reflecting in the optics themselves. It's reflecting off the screen. Yeah, I think look. It's not terrible. It's not shocking. It's not horrible. I'm not used to it. You might use them and go, "Oh, that's fine. I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem." I'm personally not used to that. That's the difference, and then. That's the problem with it. It's not that it's bad. I think it's just a behavior I'm not used to. Which is better, the DVR on the Orcas or the Scouts in HD recording? Well, it doesn't record HDMI, do they? Unfortunately, it doesn't record HDMI. Or these aren't, unless I'm missing something. So unless someone's about to tell me they're meant to record in HDMI, because they're not. So you've only got the Scout. Well, you've only got the DVR and the HDZero. Okay, so that's the score on Orcas. Very nice. So I've got to say they are a very nice goggle. There's a lot to like here. I'll be honest. The menu system is very good as well. I do like how they've laid things out. I'm going to try and get that into the review as well. I found a way of recording the screen at a fairly nice rate. Thing. Okay, so the next things to talk about, guys. The next big one is, let me get myself in order. Okay, so the next subject we're going to talk about is HDZero again, because that leads us very nicely from the Orqa into that. And that is, sadly, there are some delays on the new VRXs. Now, Carl put an update up on Facebook, and basically he says he's sorry to announce that they're not going to be able to release the new VRXs this January. Again, in the I can't say the name of the Chinese city they're working from, has been in strict lockdown, which we know it has. This is all public information. And this new VRX, which will replace the Sharkbite one, which is out of stock everywhere, they're going to be delayed. There's nothing they can do about it, right? It's not ideal. No one, there is basically a situation right now that you cannot buy into HDZero very easily. It's just not possible. Hopefully the new VRXs are going to be here soon. He said a month longer. They said January. Is that February? Could be March. They also go on to talk about integrating it with the new Orqa standard, HDZero HDMI only. There was a request to integrate a proprietary HD port. Unfortunately, this did not occur for the following reasons. The VRX would be delayed much longer. It would not reduce latency, timing significantly, and it would add cost, and it would need to retooling of the new shelf to fit curtain goggle only. Basically much more complicated for other systems. They are looking to deliver their new VRX as soon as possible, and they're hoping it'll be here in the near future. Now, my understanding is on this that there's a new rail mounting method is going to go on the new VRX. This is the same that's going to be on the goggles. There is no pricing for these VRXs yet. I know someone asked earlier on. I have not seen any pricing at all from HDZero or anyone else. It'll be interesting to see what this is priced at, because that $99 price point was a sale. And just some point I will make on this is there is a FPGA in those VRXs that costs more than the goggles. So don't get me wrong, they're going to get them cheaper at bulk, and they may have bought them before Chippergetting and it was thing. However, right now, the price that it was sold at is insanely cheaper than what it costs to make. So we're going to have to wait and see. There's no time frame. There's no price. We don't know when it's going to be. So HDZero is in this issue right now that it's a system you really can't buy into. I do know places, and I've seen a comment in the chat about it, that Rotor Riot are saying they're going to get more. I would be getting your money back, frankly, if I was you. And I know they're offering credit to people. I have seen a couple of people complaining that Rotor Riot was not actually offering refunds for these modules and offering store credit, which I think is wrong. They should be offering full refunds if they're not available. And someone has just said that they've taken the listing down. Now, there has been no confirmation. However, the understanding is Fat Shark are no longer making these modules. They've never said they're not, but they have basically washed their hands of HDZero. They basically have. Sharkbite is dead. Doesn't exist. As far as I'm concerned, it's HDZero. That's the basic reality of the situation right now. I would be very cautious of retailers saying, oh, they're waiting on stock. It's not going to happen, guys. I just don't believe it's going to happen. It's over. If you want one, you're going to have to find one used, someone else selling one, or wait for these new VRXs. I know Carl is going to want these in the market ASAP because right now you can't buy their product. You know, existing users are fine, but they can't get new users in, and that's not a situation they will want to be in. Just as HDZero is getting traction, we've basically now hit a brick wall because you can't get into the system right now. There's no way other than finding the last dregs of stock in retailers of actually finding one of these modules, and there's no new ones. The only way you could get in is the Scout HDs. Are they still available from Get FPV? Should we just have a look? The Scouts were still listed. I do wonder as well, Bruce. Scout HDs, $250. They still exist. So whatever stock of them there was, they're still going. So if you do want to get into HDZero, your only real option right now is via the Scout HDs because there's no receivers anywhere. There's no receivers anywhere. But it's a situation Carl isn't going to want to happen forever. You know, they've got a lot of traction. They've got this new Whoop board, which is 1S as well. So we're going to have to see. We're going to have to wait and see. For people wanting to get on board, it's the Scouts or try and find a used module that's out there. There really is no other options. That's literally all we can do is wait. That's all we can do is wait. So here and now, Orqa's not going to get customized support. You know, there was all that hoo-ha, and I know, and interestingly, you know, if you read into that whole situation, Orqa and Ivan were very keen on working with HDZero. Very, very keen on working with HDZero, which I think is really good. I think it's a bit of a shame there hasn't been a coming together there. And the only thing I am going to say is this, and I don't mean this in a negative or nasty way, and I don't mean this in a way that is not liking HDZero. However, it's been said on more than one occasion that the idea of DiviMath and HDZero is to make the chipsets to allow other manufacturers to come on board and make their own hardware. We are yet to see that happen, and this would have been the ideal opportunity for there being a meeting together of companies to come up with maybe the first third-party adapter or even third-party device. And I'm sure if Orqa could have, they could have built a module themselves for these. I'm sure they'd have been interested in that one way or another. And I think what's very interesting in these comments from Carl and Orqa is there doesn't seem to be any interest to really create a module compatible with these goggles from HDZero side. You can't say if Orqa were willing to build a module themselves or not. I don't know. Okay, is there interest for them to do that when they're building their own HD system? But then again, they want to sell goggles right now. And as they could have come together with something off the shelf fairly quickly, it would have been interesting. But it is just interesting. At the first opportunity, it's fallen, if you know what I mean. So, I understand if it was HDZero doing it, they were going to want to concentrate on what they're doing right now because they are, look, HDZero are promising a huge amount right now. They're working on 3 different receivers and a set of goggles and 2 new VTXs. Their pipeline is jam-packed right now. And I mean jam-packed. And yes, they have a history of delivering stuff, which is fantastic. But they have a lot of promises in the market right now, and we've got to wait to see if they deliver. And I don't mean that badly, but I would say the same for any company. They've never made goggles before. Yet we've had this spec, which is dream territory, almost, for goggles. So, I think we have to remain cautious. There was an interesting comment I saw just now, actually. Where is it? Someone said about Fat Shark. And he said he's seen a lot of negativity towards Fat Shark. Let me just find that. There we go. So GMI said it. There's been a lot of hate directed towards Fat Shark over the past few years. But the more time passes, the more I appreciate they know how to make a damn good goggle. You're not wrong. The concern with Fat Shark right now, are they going to make any more goggles? But let's be realistic. Orqa and Fat Shark make goggles. And they deliver a product. This is a very nice set of goggles. But we're going to have to see, and I just thought it was a bit interesting how that whole Orqa thing played out. I just thought it was a little bit interesting, that's all. We don't know. It might have just been Orqa said, we want you to make a module, and HDZero just said, look, we haven't got the time. We're in the middle of all of this. Sorry, it's not going to work for us. You know what I mean? And it may have just been as simple as that. It's just a bit of a miss. I think it would have been a great opportunity to do something. It would have been a great opportunity to do something. And it's funny because there was a comment by Orqa about integrating Ghost onto the VTX, but they've said it's not worth it. And it's funny, I mentioned ages ago, right, about making a HDZero VTX with Express ELRS built in, and that was shot down as no, stupid idea. Orqa are talking about it. Couldn't have been a stupid idea. So, catching up on the chat, guys. Let me just put that back up. So, let's have a look. I need to check out Steely's video. If someone can... Did someone post me the time he mentions that later? That'd be fantastic. TBS seem to have the VRX in stock at their shop. Do they? The HDZero VRX on the TBS website. Really? I flew DJI Digital on the weekend. An analog, straightforward. Love the experience. Reason. DJI is very good. Let's not forget. DJI is still the standard. It's got in the shop. Should we have a look? Where would it be under? VRX. Try VRX. Nope. Have TBS ever sold HDZero? Might be under Sharkbite. Oh, they have. Oh, yeah, look. Ah, the original pricing. Trappy's not dull. Yeah, so if you're after one, $249, same price as the Scouts. It's a shame the Scout HDs don't have HDMI output, actually, because it would have been a better deal. But, yeah, if you do want one, allegedly, they got them at TBS. Okay, catching up with chat. I give it 18 months before we see a digital product come to market. I agree on Orqa. I don't think that's any time soon. I don't think that's even in the next I think your timing is good on that. Connects, rocks. HDZero is no longer a DiviMath supplier for the world. They now vertically integrated building goggles, Empire, DiviMath chips are most likely no longer with third parties at heart. I do wonder that type, yeah. Their goal was always to supply chipsets. Bruce for DJI. Questioning, do you prefer the HDZero in the Scouts or in the new Orcas? For the field of view, I still prefer it in the Scouts. Because the field of view is bigger. The Orcas sit somewhere between the Scouts and my Dominator V3s. So personally, I prefer the Scouts. And something interesting I will say is I am not seeing any image quality difference between the Orcas and the Scouts. The Scout LCDs are very good. Yes, they're OLEDs, and I bet you it makes a massive difference on analog. However, something I am wondering is interesting is how much difference there is in image quality between a very good set of LCD goggles for digital and OLED. Because I'll be honest, on the camera I was using, and I'm not using the latest camera, I'm waiting for that to come in. Basically, from an image quality point of view, there was no benefit to OLED. Yeah, I can't confirm on vibrancy between the two. It is the Scout. I tell you, I'll be honest with you, the Scout is a very, very good goggle. It is as good as it gets on HDZero for image quality. Let's hope DJI make a Nano Vista for Whoops. I don't think they have any interest in Whoops at all. I don't think they have much interest in FPV. I certainly don't think they have any interest in Whoops in any shape or form. Catching up on the chat. Question to refer. If it answered that one, there we go. Okay. Analog rules. Yeah, analog still does rule, Bruce. You are right. I'm going to try and order my motors this week. Okay. So, that's enough of goggles. It's time to talk about Express LRS. And these two, actually, because the talk of these... Now, I've done a video on these already, but this week we've just had the release of Express LRS 2.1. Thank you, devs. You have completely ruined a review video as a result of your blatant meddling in firmware and releasing something that addresses all of my complaints in the review. So, sod you. I'm watching you. Cheers for that one, guys. I really appreciate it. Literally, right? I finished the video for this new 1 watt model from Beta FPV, and I'm not going to be the first to review this. Albert Kim's already put his out, and I was all done, and then the devs put out their review, and I was like, not review, they put out version 2.1 and changed everything and fixed all of the complaints. So, Express LRS 2.1 has landed, and it is quite a big update, actually. And the big one in this is this. It brings menu and page support to Express LRS via compatible modules, including this, the Beta FPV TX Micro, 500 milliwatt and 1 watt. They've added support for the 1 watt officially as well, which is down here. And it's nice to see that officially now in Express LRS. Now, what they seem to have done is gone with, I believe, the Axis Flying's menu system on the Express LRS modules is very similar to them, rather than the Beta FPV menu system that we had on the module originally. I'll be honest, I prefer the Beta FPV menu, if I'm completely honest. I just thought instead of having to scroll through pages of things, it's just a bit easier. You go in and up and down and choose what you want. However, it is what it is. You know, it's not terrible. It's just I thought the Beta FPV one was a little bit better. I do know, look, there's a bit of hate or a bit of certain... there are certainly some comments towards Beta FPV at times. I'll be honest, I think this is a very, very good module. I really, really do. I have zero complaints with this module at all. This module has everything I expect the module to have. It has backpack support. It has up to 1 watt. It is well made. It is better made than the equivalent Happy Model module. If I grab my Happy Model module, the plastics on the Happy module are not great. The little screws that hold it together are not great. This module is solid. I'll be honest. This module is absolutely solid. And because this is the version 2, they've now fixed, they've made the USB-C port bigger. It's now got a heatsink in this one, and I'll be showing you that in the teardown in the review. It's now got a switch pack on the back for adjusting it. And yeah, it's a good module. There really is no complaints on this at all. And I do know there is a lot of kickback towards Beta FPV. Now, I'm going to be completely honest and clear up front. They have sent me both of these modules for free, but that doesn't influence my opinion on them. I just got the Happy model, and the Namimno is much nicer. The Happy model isn't great. Where is mine? Where is it? It's in the bottom of my bag, I think. Is it? Here it is. The casing on this Happy model one isn't brilliant. You know, it's been in the bottom of the bag. You've got these little screws that hold it together, which is okay, all right. But the USB port is on the inside. So if you want to update the firmware on this, you've got to get the screws out and update it. Is the 1 watt the same? I haven't looked at that yet. The plastics are not, they're okay. The plastics are solid on it. There's no real complaints there. I think it needs better screws to hold them together because it does feel a bit cheap when you're trying to put it together. The top doesn't come off very easily, but this feels a good module. I got no complaints with this one at all. The complaints I had with this one were that the USB-C port was a bit small. So you had to carve down your USB cable, but that wasn't for all of them. That was only for some of them. And obviously that stupid original firmware cut the RF power. But if you now take both of these today, running the official firmware, they're absolutely fine. There's no problems with them at all. There really is no problems with them at all. So it is well worth considering both of these, the 500 or the 1 watt. I'll be honest, if you want backpack functionality, you're going to have to go for the 1 watt. You really are. I do know that the Namimno is meant to be a very, very, very good module. A really, really good module. The only concern I've got with Namimno is there's just no contact for them. They don't exist. I still haven't found a website for them. So you've got this manufacturer is just, you know, you're relying on that. At least with, say, Happy Model and Beta FPV and them, they are a company, and yes, okay, you can argue some people have said, and many people have said, that Beta FPV's customer service isn't the greatest. So be it. But at the end of the day, at least there's a website to go to and a company to shout at if there is a problem. I think part of the problem with the Beta FPV is they've done some issues on the previous modules where they've had concerns and they've not addressed them with the community, whereas Happy Model have and Namimno have. Whilst Namimno don't really have a website as such, they are active on Facebook, and when their first module went out and had a problem, they recalled them all. They went online and told everyone, bring them back. And I think against Beta FPV, they haven't done that when there's been problems on modules in the past. There's a design issue, I think, on one of the micro modules where they didn't fit a capacitor, and that results in you not being able to update the firmware via UART. So I think that has been part of the driving force for some of the community kickback. But reality is, today, if you're looking for one of these three, I would choose the 1 watt, just because I think it's good. There's no issues with that. Between these two, 250 or 500, I'll be honest, that output's nearly 300 milliwatts, not 250. That output's not quite 500 milliwatts. I'll just show you guys this, actually. I've got a chart, because I'm doing a lot more power testing with the modules. Let me just show you guys this, because you might find this interesting. So this is going to be part of what I'm doing on my reviews for the Express ELRS modules, where we're now doing RF power testing with the Immersion RC meter. I've now got a methodology that works, so a testing method that's accurate. I've done external testing, and I'm confident in the numbers themselves. However, I'm less concerned of the actual RF output numbers. I'm more interested in the differences between modules, because you're using the same testing method between them. So, for instance, if we look at the 25 milliwatt setting, you got the Beta FPV 1 watt module at 17 on average. You've got the 500 milliwatt module at 30, and then the Happy model virtually bang on at 23. At 50, again, this 1 watt module underperforms, with the Happy model and the Beta FPV 500 milliwatt module being much closer. Interestingly, the Happy model is now over. Again, 100 milliwatt, very similar story. Beta FPV on the nail. Happy model going a little bit over, with the Beta FPV 1 watt trending under. And then when we come up to the 250 settings, which is the maximum for the Beta FPV module, that thing is just blasting 294, because it's just going to max output, which on my one happens to be 294. The Beta FPV 500 milliwatt module comes to 270. And then again, the 1 watt underperforms. Back then, I've only got the two 500 Beta FPV modules, and again, both are not quite hitting 500 milliwatts, with the 1 watt model coming in 40 watts below, but it's definitely hitting 1 watt on max output. It definitely is. I triple checked everything, compared it to Tracer, Crossfire, other things like that, and yeah, we're getting 1 watt of output on full output. So it's just a chart, and I'm going to be adding more and more modules to this over time, and I'm going to be building it up. It's going to be part of my review on modules moving forward and how we do some of the testing. And I just thought I'd show you guys that as well, just so you guys can see some of the testing that I'm doing in the background too. Let me just bring the chat up. It's interesting. It is interesting, but as someone said, I think someone said Beta is still rebuilding their reputation after so many failures. Happy model also had to do the same. Yeah, look, right now, I think there's a lot of love for Happy model, because they work very well with the Express ELRS community, and that's great, but I've had quality issues with their receivers. That's a reality. That's just how it is. The build quality on this is very, very good, though. Do you know what I mean? I do know that the Mimno is meant to be a very, very good module. A very, very good module. Just to show you inside the Beta FPV 1 water, just to show you guys the heatsink, I'll give you guys a bit of a look on that before the review. This is how the Beta FPV module is inside with the heatsink removed. So inside we've got the WinBond flash chip. We've got the ESP32 over here. Let me open the original just so it's bigger for you guys. There we go. Right. Okay. So what we've got on the module is the WinBond chip. We've got the ESP32, the Sil Labs UART driver for the USB. We've got the ESP8285, I think it is, which is the backpack functionality. What's quite nice on this is they're not using chip antennas on this module. So you have an antenna here and an antenna here, one off the ESP32. So this one comes over here and in. And then this one over here comes here and down as well. And they have a little antenna rather than a chip one. And then moving up the board, you can see here is where the heatsink is on the module. This is with the heatsink removed. So you've got the LED in the middle where they've got a cutout on. and then the heatsink goes on top of the back side of the PCB with a thermal pad, and then you've got varying vias all over the place, and the actual RF module is on the back side of this board here. These are the CAN solder points, so 1, 2, 3 is where the shielding CAN is soldered on the back, but that's the inside of the Beta FPV module there, just to show you guys that one as well, which is quite interesting. Is over-the-air updates coming to Express ELRS? I don't know. They are quite happy with their update method at the moment, especially with the new versions. It's very, very easy. It's very, very easy. It's very, very easy overall. You can control your VRX Express or Lewis script. I keep VTX sync channels. The feature is called Backpack. Yes, the Backpack functionality, and the 1 watt does have Backpack. It does. Tim Holt, good evening, Tim. How are you? What is Backpack? Basically, Backpack is another radio in it. So they're using what is known as ESP Now protocol. So it's a wireless protocol that allows the devices to communicate between each other at short range. And the theory between Backpack functionality is you could have a set of goggles like the Orcas with Backpack functionality in. So all they're going to do is put in an ESP 32 and 8285. And the idea would be from your Lewis script on your radio, you could say change VTX channel, and your goggles and your VTX would automatically change to that channel for you. That's the theory between it. So what would happen is you would change the channel via the Lewis script, which would then via the radio communicate and change your VTX, and then it would wirelessly connect with the goggles and change it for you as well, basically. So it's like a local network for the communication between the devices, and you could have Backpack on your goggles, on your craft, varying places, even in your radio. You know, the idea is to have this little communication network between the devices to allow them to control each other. Basically, the biggest use case is changing the goggles channel when you're changing the VTX channel automatically, which would be very nice. You know, that's the biggest idea of it, basically. Right, just catching up on the chat. If you have any questions, guys, as we're going through, please do let me know. DJI is still very, very good. You know, look, let's not get away from the fact DJI FPV is still one of the best systems on the market. My only concern with DJI today is that they're not talking much, and that is a worry, because okay, there are rumors of a version 2 FPV drone around the corner. I don't know anything for fact, but there are rumors of it, and I wouldn't be shocked if that came with another set of goggles, and then we could see the end of the FPV as it is today. You know, DJI have not been talking much, and that's always a worry. Let's have a look. I think they RC Ritter, I think they tried real hard with the Beta FPV module. I would agree. It is a good module. Look, I don't owe Beta FPV anything. You know, look, no one influences me for $30, $40 modules. I will say it as it is. The build quality on this module was very good, but it didn't have Backpack. And the release firmware was stupid. This is a very good module. This is a very good module. That simple. We need a big fat rant on canvas mode. I've done everything I can do on that one, guys. I've put more content out on that than anyone else. Sadly, we're not seeing any change. You know, I've sold my soul on that one as much as I can. I've done the videos. I've done the content. Look. Let me show you something. Let's go to YouTube. There's been me. There's been me. There's been me. JB's mentioned it. I'm like 3-1 on anyone else. Pavel's mentioned it 2 months ago as well. I didn't see that was DJ. But, you know, look. Where is canvas mode? No more encryptions. Come on, DJ and Cadex. I've shouted about this as much as I can. I can't do any more, guys. You know, I really cannot scream it any more than I have. Okay, the videos haven't had great views. That's possibly part of the problem. You know, 6.7k on that one. 2k on that one. Here's something. If you want to get it out there, share this. If you want to make a difference, share this video everywhere you can. That's the only way we'll do it. What got the first problems fixed was the video where I said, don't buy DJI. That video got 10,000 views in the first day because I said, they're breaking goggles, don't buy them. That got, I think it was 10 or 12,000 views in 24 hours. That is what got that problem fixed. When we sat here with those problems on the version 2 goggles, people were getting bricked, I put that video up. Let me just find it. And DJI FPV bricked. Where is it? Don't think I took that video offline. Let me just find it. Didn't think I took that video offline. I thought I left it up. Perhaps I did, because I did say if they fixed the issue, I'd take it offline. So it is possible I did do that, because I did say if the issue was fixed, which it was, I'd take the video down. And I didn't say that to DJI. I just said that in the video. I even said that in the video. I wouldn't be leaving it up if the issue was resolved, because it's unfair, because it's confusing matters. Let me just find the video. Because it'll be still on my analytics. It's one of my better viewed videos for a very long time. There it is. Yeah, I took it unlisted. So, in the few days it was up, it got 16,000 views. But I think it was something like 10,000 of those views in the first... Today I want to... There it is. Sorry, found it. In the first 24 hours. That is what made the impact. If we want DJI to listen, the video I've done on canvas mode needs to get that correction. The last video I put up, I cover everything, everything in there with regards to it. That's the one. Share it. I'll put a link to it at the end of this stream. Share it out there. That's all we can do. If you haven't seen it, on Steely's Orqa video, he mentions it at 12:05. Thank you, buddy. I'll check that out. Really do appreciate that. There is some stuff we need. Look, there's stuff I want on it, DJI. We need... It's not good enough. I'd like more. I don't particularly have an issue if they add everything, but there is some stuff we would like. You know, there is some stuff like... But look, the really interesting thing with DJI is, I had a comment on the channel today from a user saying, I flew someone with the second set of goggles and he said it was just almost unflyable because he said it was just breaking up. And that is the power of the system DJI has with the packet retries. With the two-way link, it's very, very good. But you take away that two-way link and it is shocking. Absolutely shocking. So... it's a very good drone, the FPV combo package. It's a fast bit of kit. And as long as you don't crash it, it's not a bad tool. It really isn't. Let me just get myself set up for the what's next. Where are we here? Sorry, my screen is full size for some reason when it shouldn't be. It is interesting that HDZero thing is that module still on TBS. Just not for freestyle proximity. Yeah, that's the issue. 1 second, guys. I'm just going to grab a drink because I've run out of tea. Actually, my tea's gone cold, but my throat is drying up. I didn't have a second drink with me, so I need to go and grab myself something. In fact, what I'll do is let me just send a message to my wife and see if I can get her to bring me one. See if she can. 1 second, I'm just going to cough because the human malware thing hasn't fully left yet. Unfortunately, I've still got stuff in my... Yeah, full price on Bangor. So it seems to be the HDZero module is available at full price in places. It really does. So just to wrap up the Express ELRS, if you've got these modules, as I said in the video, Beta FPV, go update them. But if you do have the display, it's worth checking it out. I am going to be adding more and more tests to this. I want to get the Namimno and I want to get the 1 watt from Happy Model. I'd like to get the Axis flying module as well, but I'm not spending $129 on a module. I'm just not doing it. It's insane. I've got a good selection of Express ELRS modules now. And actually, I have got some plans because there'll be no need for me to keep both of these. So I will be talking about that in a future video as well. For someone, we're going to try and hopefully do a little bit of a giveaway as well, because I'm not going to need all of these. Once I've done all of my testing, it'll be good to go. But I want to get some more modules on this as well. I'd like to get the Axis flying on there, but I'm not spending that much money on a module. But I'll get the Namimno because the Namimno does look a very, very good module. How much is the Namimno now? ELRS. You can get it in the UK as well by the look of it. Is it in stock? Oh, and on AliExpress. So if we look, so the Flash TX is £46. That's not bad. If I get it, I probably would get it. How much is it? Oh, 84. I wouldn't mind getting it received so I could have a closer look at them. But yeah, £46 there. 37 on AliExpress, which isn't bad. And what's it in the UK with the receiver kit? Out of stock. Drum. What are we talking down here? RC kit. Let's have a look. Radio transmitters. Do they have just the module? Here we go. Ah, that's the one without the display. In stock. That's the 868. Do they have the 2.4? £107 for the Thor in the UK. Oh, I just cannot justify that in the UK for an Express ELRS module. Although I have seen a really nice picture of it mounted on the back of a Mambo, and it does fit very nicely on the back of the Mambo. Let's have a look. Are they showing it? Oh, out of stock. No, it's not. So it would have to be Banggood. And then if we went beta, not beta FPV, Happy Model. Happy Model 1 watt. Where is that one? No, it's not coming up. Happy model. The happy model one. Is it that cheap? The 1 watt one? Or is that it down there? Is that the 1 watt model? No, that's not. No, that's the 900. I'm not seeing the 1 watt. Unless I'm being blind. Should we check out... let's just look at Express LRS. So we've got the Namimno there with receivers. Happy model. Just the casing. Where are we? Don't think that's the 1 watt. Doesn't look like it because it's not got the heatsink. It's just the case. No, it's hiding from us at the moment, isn't it? One watt. Happy model 1 watt Express LRS. TX Micro. Where is he? Why is he not showing up anyway? Unmanned. That's not the 1 watt one. No one seems to be showing the 1 watt. Ah, TX Pro. Sorry, I might have been searching for the wrong term. So if we search for the TX Pro. Banggood. There we go. There we go. £37. Out of stock. That's the Slim Pro. Yeah, it's about 30. Like, it's going to be about £80 for the two. Something like that. It's out of stock out of the way. Ah, that explains it, Brandon. Sorry. Yeah, I was wondering why it was. What a recipe. Okay, so that's the situation with Express LRS and everything as well. Does the Mambo have a full-size module bay? Yes, it does. Mambo will take all the Express LRS modules. It'll take Crossfire. It's obviously got Tracer built in. No problems at all. Yeah, and look, you know, 1 watt is silly output. A, it's not legal. B, you don't need it. But if I was buying one, I'd probably... Although, what is interesting is if you actually look at the 1 watt, it is, you know, if you look at my chart, the 1 watt is trending under the outputs on the other settings than the happy model, for instance. So the 250 milliwatt happy model tends to be better. What's the black module with the black antenna? That is the happy model. So that's the happy model 250 milliwatt instead of the 1 watt. So that's the 250 version. 100 watt linear amp and low Earth orbit. Yeah, you know. And again, 1 watt's a lot of power on these. And in fact, it is incredible how quick it starts draining your radio as well. Even on my testing, it drains a lot. It really does. So, buy the 1 watt up to 500. Bit of overhead. Yeah, the only interesting thing is I said in that chart, you know, I'd like to see what the other ones show like. TX4 not the Pro, only 100 milliwatt, no fan, 200 milliwatt. Ah, yes. Well, that will output 200 milliwatt. Without a fan, that will do 200 plus milliwatts. That I can promise you. Because I've done the tests. No, it's 250, no fan. Yeah, it's definitely doing 250. It's doing 294. It's definitely doing that. Okay, guys, if you've got any questions as we're moving through, please do let me know in the chat. Just to give you guys a bit of an update on this. let's put this up full screen so you can see it. The official batch has now gone in to be ordered. So this was obviously the V1, which has so many mistakes on it. It is crazy, including the mistakes from JLB PCB or JLC PCB, which was they didn't do that properly. That's not meant to look like that. That's meant to be a chart like that down there. They got it wrong, not me. But this is the first version. This has so many mistakes on it. It's crazy. However, the official version has been ordered. Let me just zoom out a little so you guys can see it full screen. So the first 20 have been ordered. They should be... I got Chinese New Year to contend with now. I have spent a little bit more on them this time because I've also asked for the paper to go between them so they don't scratch as well. There has been quite a lot of changes on the version 2 board, or the official version 1 board, because it will be labeled version 1. And there's been some changes on the back as well. However, and oh, my drink's arrived. 1 second, guys. Hello? It didn't unmute. I pressed the button and it didn't unmute. That's weird. She didn't bring me a drink. I had to get one myself. I did hit unmute, but it didn't do it. That was strange. Now, there's a mistake on this no one spotted. And I do not know how it happened, because I did it myself, pinned out. But let me grab something. Now she's texting me now. Look. Yeah. There we go. Sorted. There's a mistake on this, right? And I don't know how this happened, but it did. And I'm going to show you it. It's no sound. Still no sound? Is it? I got it on my side. Okay, is the sound working now? Because it's now showing correct on my side. I'm just going to wait to see. Yes, thank you. Sorry, it was... Yeah, okay. There we go. So I'm going to show you the mistake. So there's a mistake on this that... There's loads of mistakes, actually, that you guys found, and I really appreciate it. But there's one that no one spotted. And I'm going to show you this now. All right, so here's the ear unit. Anyone spotted it yet? I actually had, yes, the DJI wiring the wrong way round. And the coloring's right, but the wiring was actually the wrong way round. And I have no idea how that happened. I have no idea how that happened. And no one else spotted this. This was a me spot, this one. And a massive thank you to everyone who gave feedback. But yeah, the wiring was the wrong way around on the DJI unit. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Silly little mistake. Silly little mistake. But okay, it's all been corrected. It's all been changed. But this is, yeah, so the new version of this, it's in print now. And it should be coming very, very soon. Maybe I'd use the Goggles Racing Edition. I don't know what I did to do this, I'll be honest. But there has been some other changes as well on it. But this is the version 1, which has lots of mistakes, but it's close. There was also an issue here where, for some reason, it gapped out the measurement after 15 a little bit more than it should have. I'll be honest, when I sell these, I'm not going to be telling you they're 100% accurate. I've done the checks and they're close, but it's not designed to be a perfect measuring tape. 30 is 30 mil, but I think it's 30.0. I think it's 30.01 or something like that. It's not 1 mil, it's 0.1 of a mil when I was doing the measurements. And there's always going to be adjustments for the tooling and everything because it's a PCB at the end of the day. But there's been lots of other changes. But obviously we've got the Happy model, and I've now added the wiring for Ghost below it as well, because the Ghost pinout is basically the same as the Happy model pinout. We've obviously got Crossfire and Tracer, HDZero, and I do like how the HDZeros come out. That is just fantastic. The DJI, the Vista, and then there's some other information as well. But yeah, so the ruler reminds me of how I live my life. Fast with lots of stuff. Bruce, there's so many on this, mate. I can promise you. There are so many on this. I wish I could say it was fast. I'd been working on the data pretty much in this for months, but the concept came together very, very fast in COVID. So I've got 10 of these, 10 of the faulty ones, which I've managed to get most of my money back because they got that wrong. Let's just say they got that wrong, not me. So that was my excuse for going, well, you can give me my money back. And they did try and pull a fast one. I'll be honest, right? Who is it? It's JLC PCB tried to pull a fast one. They did say to me that, because I said to them, look, you've made a mistake here. This is not what I uploaded. And they went away and went, oh, yes, we found the problem on the master file. We've corrected it. Do you want us to print them and post them to you again? And I said, not off the file you've got. I want to make my own changes as well. Can I have a credit for a new order instead? And they were like, yeah. They actually said to me, do you want us to reprint or give you a credit? And I went back and said, oh, the reprint, I'd like to make some changes. So can you give me the credit? And they said, okay, will you accept the X? And the credit was like half the amount I'd paid. And that's when I was like, hold on a minute. You were willing to do it again for free, but you only want to give me half the credit to start again. And I was like, no. And we went back and forth a few times, and I did take a reduction in credit, a very, very small amount, about $7 less, I think it was. And I just got fed up with the back and forth. But they did pull a fast one, so they were willing to redo them based off their mess up, which would have given me more faulty ones. So that was no good, was it? But not their fault, my fault, for free. But when it came to just crediting me, they wanted to reduce the amount. Sly sods. Utterly, utterly sly. But the order's in. I've double checked the file this time. You've got to pay if you want the file checked. The problem with these PCB manufacturers is you've got to pay every time you want to do something. I am going to try PCBWay as well for some, I think. Yeah, well, I want to use them, so I didn't want to kick off with PayPal because I need to use them to get it sorted. But you know, we're getting there. We're getting there. We really are. Good evening, Gary. How are you? I'm just going to take a sip of this because my throat is going. Checking it's unmuted. Yes, it has. Okay. So, the couple of other things. I'm going to do one other thing before we take a look at the Honest VSWR meter, because I want to talk about that a little bit as well. The DJI Action 2 has had a firmware update. Now, for those who have bought this, there's been quite a lot of changes on this unit since it's released, and something that is interesting is DJI have introduced a new steady mode on the camera. Now, this camera has rock steady image stabilization, which stabilizes the shot, but the new firmware has added another version of it. The original up to 4K did rock steady, but there was also the horizon steady feature, which kept the horizon straight in up to 2.7K, and it would keep the horizon straight so much so you could actually rotate the camera a full 360 degrees and it would keep the horizon level. The downside to that mode, though, is that it would only work up to 2.7K, and it was punching in and reducing the field of view, because obviously, as a result of having to stabilize that, they're cutting the field of view away. They have, though, now introduced a new version of this steady, horizon steady, which works in 4K mode up to 60 frames a second, but only up to 45 degrees. And the idea is it punches in less, but it does still give you that horizon steady feature, but only up to 45 degrees of movement. Now, if I go onto the overhead and fire this up just to show you, no, I still cannot turn on in CE the overheat mode, Bruce. That isn't there. So obviously the camera's there on the bench. Let me just focus on this a bit better, just so you guys... Oh, actually, I'm on autofocus, so it should sort itself out. So what we've got is, if I go under here, in 2.7K 60, we've got the option of rock steady, on or off. Sorry, 2.7K 16:9. We've got the choice of off, rock steady, and horizon steady, 45, and horizon steady, the full version, which will go all the way around. And if I just show you, if I just lift it up and try and get this to focus, come on, Sony. Is this playing ball or not? Come on. Sony autofocus is playing up on me today. Oh, that definitely doesn't want to work, does it? Right there. Let's go into manual, shall we? Come on, Sony. What it is, I'm zoomed in at the maximum of the focus capability of the camera. There we go. So, if I just show you it there now. So, if I go to off, you can see the field of view there. We've got steady, which punches in further. Rock steady, which is the same punch in. Horizon steady 45. And then this horizon steady full mode, which goes the full 360. But you've got these multiple stabilization options on it now that we didn't have before, but they also now work in 4K. And you can see we've got steady, rock steady, and this new horizon steady up to 45 degrees. And what it will do is it'll stabilize it to a point, and then it flips the image. It's hard to show you this on camera this way, but you can see it there. It's actually flipping the image when it does it. There has also been a load of other changes on this as well. Let me just refocus. Whoa, where are we? There we go. Probably there. There we go. They've improved the overall settings menu, so it's a bit better now around the SD card. So, for instance, when you want to format the card, it won't just let you format the storage. So if I go into here, switch to install storage, just click format, they've changed it now to a better way. So you've now got to slide this up to format rather than just do it automatically, because it was a bit easy before, because you could just press it and it was done, gone. So now you've got that extra option. They've definitely improved the transfer times from the internal storage to the card. It is dramatically faster than it was before. So whereas my complaints in the past with that it took so long to transfer, it has completely improved it, and it is much faster overall. There has been a whole other host of changes. I'm not exact. Let me just bring up what it was said on the DJI website. Where was it? I saw it on Facebook actually. The release notes, the actual release notes for it. No, it's not that one. DJI published them officially. When I find them, where are they hiding then? It's not on a. Oh no, it's not the group. Where is the official one? Oh god, I'm trying to find the. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I'm trying to find the official DJI group. Here we go. So, Barry, I know Barry. I used to actually run the groups with Barry. He's a very good guy, is Barry. So they've added steady optimization power consumption. Added steady and optimized power consumption when steady is enabled or image stabilization is disabled. Added horizon balancing. Horizon balancing keeps 4K footage level and flat up to 45 degrees. Added a new low power mode for time lapse. Optimized snapshots to enable disabling the settings. They've added support for the DJI microphone as well. Added the function the screen automatically locks exporting footage, and that's another big improvement. Is when you export footage now, it tells you how many files is transferred. So let me just set this to record on the internal footage, and I'll grab an SD card. Before, I noticed when it was offloading footage, it didn't really tell you any idea of how long it was going to take or what it was going to do. So I'll just record 2 or 3 just so you guys can see it. They've said they've optimized the power efficiency and added horizon calibration settings. So you can now calibrate the camera's horizon as well. So you can do that. So I just do that. When you do the transfer now, they have improved this. You're not going to really get an idea of how much faster it is. But if I scroll down, go to the SD card, and you've still got the option to export. But when you do it, it now shows you the files it's doing at the top. And it just gives you a better idea of what's going on. So it's done 1 of 2. And it actually locks the screen automatically to stop you accidentally pressing it and cancelling it. Because one of my complaints before was when it was offloading, if you tapped the screen, it would stop the transfer. So they have improved it. There has been quite a few improvements on it. It still overheats like hell, but to be fair to them, they have done some nice little improvements on the camera. So if you have got one, do the update. The way it adjusts the light conditions was frustrating for me. It's not the greatest camera. You need Facebook to get release notes. Unfortunately so. It is in the app, but it vanishes once it's on there. Mr. Focus is sub 2 billion naked GoPro. Which one? Whole touch interface deserves a bit more love to be called and usable. It's not too bad. It's okay. It's a bit of a fumble. But will it blend? Probably no. It's solid aluminium. So it probably won't. Right, guys. If you've got any questions, please do put them into the chat. I'm going to go and grab this little SWR meter, and I'm just going to show you this. This arrived this week, and I've been doing some tests with it, and I'm getting to grips with it now. And I'm going to be showing a lot more of this and testing in the near future. We're going to take some antenna testing, and it's quite interesting because doing antenna tests is quite an interesting subject, especially the different behaviors between antennas as well, and understanding gain and you know what an antenna does and brings to the table. You know, and people talk about, you know, oh, this antenna is better, it's got more gain. And the thing to remember with gain is really what an antenna is able to do from a directivity point of view, because antennas offering gain are basically offering gain in a certain way, in a certain direction. You know, antennas can't just make more power. They can't just irradiate more energy than it's being given, but what it can do is direct that energy a certain way. And that's really where gain comes in, is that your antenna for your use case. So if you take a Yagi beam, they can be really high gain because they're forcing all of that RF a certain way. So the gain at that point is much higher than the gain off the side and the back. And it's always quite complicated when you're looking at antennas. Oh, this is high gain. Generally in high frequency applications like we've got here, higher gain will result in narrower bandwidth usually. Okay, there's no set rule on this, but what you do find on these higher frequency antennas, 2.4 and 5 gig especially, that as the gain increases, the directivity increases, you can lose bandwidth, especially on very, very small compromised antennas as well, you know, when you're making them very, very small. And I'm actually seeing that on the True RCs, the True RC antennas I'm testing. We'll take a look at them in a second, that the bandwidth of the antenna is much shorter as a result of the way the antenna is designed for its size and the kind of elements they're using. So what we're going to do is fire up this. And this is the Arnest reflectometer. Now, I've bought this direct from Arnest. I am going to be doing a review on this. I put it on the overhead. It's a 23 to 6,200 megahertz reflectometer. This is basically an electronic Smith chart VSWR meter. That's what this basically is. It does some other functions as well, but it's going to allow me to do some testing on antennas. Now, let me just grab the cable. There we go. Sorry, I had my USB cable under the table. And what this is going to allow me to do is a lot more testing on antennas to see what their performance is like. Now, what we're going to do is power this up. Now, this has already been pre-calibrated to 2.4 gigahertz. So it's calibrated at the moment to the band we're going to take a look at. And it's now powered up onto a Smith chart. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is put on one of these antennas. Now, this is a Moxon antenna. If you've not seen one of these are included with the Beta FPV units. It's called a Moxon antenna. It's basically a 2-element Yagi beam, is basically what it is. So you have a driven element and a reflective element. And it's quite hard to see how they've set the elements up on this when I look at it. But for all intents and purposes, it's a 2-element beam. That's basically what this is. Now, what I'm going to do is pop him on, and I'm going to put it in free air. Let me just get the box, because the antenna will be affected by the desk as well. So let me just close the box a minute. There we go. Just to bring it up. And the only reason for that is just so the antenna hangs off the side in free air. It's just a little bit better that way. And I'm going to show you the PC interface in a minute, because there is a very nice PC interface for this. So I'm going to change the plot. What you're looking at there is a Smith chart. If you've never seen what a Smith chart is, how am I going to describe what the Smith chart is? It is a method of showing information about impedance, VSWR, capacitance and inductance of an RF system. That's probably the simplest way I can describe it off the top of my head. Complex, but the easiest way to explain this is there's a line that runs up the center of the chart. That line is basically resistance or impedance. So for instance, a 50 ohm load should literally be at that point there. Heading that way is higher, heading that way is lower. Heading up this way of the chart, the device has more capacitance. Heading that way, sorry, that device has more inductance. Heading that way down the chart, the device has more capacitance. It's awfully complicated. I'm not going to go any further into it than that. But what we can do is switch plots. And what we can also do is look at the VSWR of the antenna, which we are looking at now. This is a 2.4 gig antenna. So that was me grabbing it. So if I just show you, it's the Beta FPV 2.4. The band I've got this antenna set to at the moment is 2.4 to 5 gigs. So what we're looking at is the full band of the system. That's the full width of the band that we're going to be looking at. And as you can see, the VSWR of the antenna is on that curve there. So for instance, it's starting here. And if I just press this and get a marker in, let's just set a marker in at 2410. Hit enter, turn that one on. And we're going to put that on SWR. And then go back. You can see now we've got a marker in place. So if I press the marker and move it across, I can actually move it down to the lowest point. And at the lowest point, the VSWR on this antenna is 1.15. At the high point on this side, it's just below 1.6 from the look of it. It is. And you can see up this side, it's heading to about 2.2. Now, with an antenna, you're always looking for an SWR of as low as possible, as close to 1.0, which is basically physically impossible, but you're trying to get as close to that as you can. Now, the nice thing about this is what I'm going to do is plug this into USB. I'm going to bring up the software to show you guys. So I'm just going to come off the overhead and I'm going to show you it now. Rather than show you on the display here, I'm going to show you the ELRS software, which is a lot better to show this stuff on. So I'm going to just communicate, click apply, boom, and go to the desktop view. And now you can see the plot of the ELRS over USB directly on the display. And we've got 4 screens available. We have our loss chart up here. We have our Smith's chart, our polar chart, and then our VSWR down here. So the nice thing with VSWR is I can actually put markers in place. So I can put markers. I'm going to put one on there. Let's put it on there, and I can grab him and move him around. And again, we can put a marker on this. We can see the VSWR on this antenna is 1.59 at the bottom end of the scale, and at the top end of the scale, it is 1.96. So it's well below 1.2, basically. Well below 1.2, sorry, on both sides, with it being at its lowest tier. The real interesting thing is this little chart up here, which is the loss chart, because this is the RF chart that shows how much loss the antenna has. So how much of the power going in is being converted into RF. A good antenna, they say, should have a loss of minus 10 dB or more. So you can see at the lowest point, which is the peak VSWR, this antenna is down to about is about 16 dB, which is fantastic. You know, it's got the least amount of loss, but you can see it shifts up very quickly, okay? And the reason I'm showing you this is I want to show you a different type of antenna in a minute. And you can see the loss changes very quickly. So it shifts from that low point here right up to maybe 4 dB either side of the band. Now, this antenna for FHSS will be absolutely fine. You know, its absolute perfect tune point is here. This is the point this antenna will convert the most RF to radiated signal, because that is the point it has the least loss. And then as we come up either side, it's going to do less, but it's not dramatic. It really isn't dramatic. And this antenna is pretty good, decent VSWR. And because it's a spread spectrum signal on RC, it's not going to make a dramatic difference. This isn't an out-and-out video signal on a single carrier. This is 1 point. But if you were using this on, say, 2.4 gig video on a single carrier, what you'd want to do is get your video right at that point there. That point exactly. And I am going to show you on a different antenna. We'll take a quick look at a couple of others in a minute because it does get interesting. If I show you now this antenna, now this is basically the dipole from Happy model. Again, tuned to 2.4 gigahertz. Let's just tighten them up. But what you'll see here is things are quite different. You'll see a much flatter curve on this antenna. because it's a dipole, it's not got great gain. Normally about 2 dB of gain on a dipole. But you can see it has a much flatter VSWR curve and a completely different loss curve because of the way the antenna is. It's much flatter overall. You don't get that V. You don't get that drop. And again, it's even worse with the linear antenna. Let me just find the linear one. That's there. If I move over to the linear antenna, which is like the rubber ducky, you can see again, much flatter curve, although it is, sorry, it's being affected by the surroundings. There you go, that's a bit better. It is flatter. The VSWR curve is much flatter overall because it's much wider band, this antenna, but it's not going to have the same gain as the other antennas. And again, it's not as directive, it's an omnidirectional. So the interesting thing with the VNA is it allows us to look at this. Now, it does get interesting that put a plain ducky. That's the plain ducky on there now. The real interesting is when we start looking at video antennas, because things look very, very different. Because remember, in video, you're picking a single channel to choose. So I'm going to grab two identical antennas, apart from one has the length and one doesn't. So one has the extra length on the coax and one doesn't. And what I want to show you is the behavioral difference between these two antennas. And also, I've got two of these antennas, and one behaves completely differently to the other as well. And it is very, very interesting when you see the difference. Now, in video, this is going to be a far more important thing to do because you are doing video on a single channel, and the channel you choose may have an effect on your RF output, especially with antennas like this, that they do appear to be quite compromised in how they behave. So what I'm going to do is just get the software changed. So what we're going to do is change the frequency. We're going to go to 5600 to 5900, which is enough. That's the big enough area of the band. I'm going to swap it over for the smaller True RC first. Now I'm going to have to bring in a calibration data for this. Let me just do that. There we go. That's fine. Right, so popping back over to the desktop. So here right now we have the True RC. So let me just show you which one I have. We have the small True RC, the rubber ducky. We'll call it the rubber ducky on that one. And what you can see on this antenna is, on the VSWR curve, it actually goes quite high at the bottom of the band. So at 5600, so channel 1, we're quite high. The VSWR on that antenna is about, what is it showing? 2.23. And then drops right down here, by me here, down to 1.15. And then back up to 1.76 at the top of the band. So this channel, this antenna, is peak output channel is going to be by here, which is 5768. So you really want 5750. Whatever channel is 5750, I can't remember off the top of my head. I would look at my own chart, but it hasn't got the bloody printing on it. 5750 is going to be roughly the peak output for this antenna. And here you can see that's with the absolutely lowest losses for that antenna as well. With these 5750, 5850, 5750, maybe 5800. I think you're going to be talking channel, what are we talking there? 6, 7, 5, 6, and 7 roughly. 5, 6, and 7 off the top of my head. Is going to be with it. I got a chart on the floor. So on race band, we're going to be talking, 5 is 5800. So, I tell you what would be very nice. Ideally, will be channel 4 on this. Channel 4 is going to be bang on. Are you putting that on the chat? I bet there's someone in the chat screaming channel 4. No, there's no. I thought someone would be screaming channel 4. So channel 4 on this is going to be the peak. Because if I look on raceband, so if you're using raceband HDZero, channel 4 is 5769. Absolutely 5769 is there, you know, literally bang on the bottom of the SWR curve on this antenna. So the peak output of that True RC antenna is going to be on channel 4. And actually, the VSWR is shooting up quite high either side. So much so on channel 1, because channel 1 is, what are we, 5658. So 5658. The VSW is about 1.8. So it's not shocking. It's not terrible. It's under 2. It's definitely under 2 at that point, but your peak output is going to be on that channel 4. Now, I'm just going to grab the second one of these antennas to show you the difference, because I've got 2 identical ones, and they're behaving differently. So here is the second one. So I'm going to pop that one over. Identical antenna. Same length. I bought 2 of these. And you'll see this one. This is the one with the higher VSWR curve. So this one, look, is well different tuned. Not only is it tuned at a different point, so it's tuned up here. So whereas this antenna was at its best at 5770, basically, this one's at its best at 5811. So that other one was best on channel 4. This one is going to be best on channel 5. Maybe even channel 6. Yeah, I'd even say as far as channel 6, 5 and 6. Starting to go off on channel 6, channel 5. Channel 5 is going to be the peak point. And just look at the loss curve on this one come down. The loss curve comes right down to minus 16 dB. So at this point here, it's really, really at its best. It really is at its best. But at channel 1 on this antenna, which is 5658. So let's just find 5658. The SWR is just 5.6. Yeah, it's just over 2. 2.0. It's basically at 2.0 at that point. So this one isn't as good as the first one, which is quite interesting. Now, the last one we're going to try is this one here, which is the long one. Let me just show you the difference on the long one, because it's quite interesting. With the extra length of coax, and the coax makes a massive difference. Now look at the VSWR curve on this one. Just look how high the VSWR is on this antenna. At the bottom of the band, that's got an SWR of 3.6 on channel 1. 3.6. And at its lowest, it's 1.47. But on channel 1, 3 over 3 VSWR. And then look at the loss curve. And interestingly, look, the loss curve. At no point does this antenna get below that minus 10 dB, which I said to you about earlier. A completely different curve on this antenna compared to the other ones. And the only difference between those other two is the length of coax. Now, this one, coming back up, this one is not a very good antenna. Now, I don't know if they're all like that. I haven't reached out to True RC to understand it more yet, because that one has a very high SWR compared to the other two. Same antenna, singularity, True RC singularity. I think the singularity, is they? Yeah. You know, there's no damage. Absolutely perfect. The interesting thing for me is, the lucky thing is, I only use that as a receiving antenna, so it's not really going to make a difference. And that is something I want to address now as well. And that's, I don't know if Bruce is still in the comments. He'll have his thoughts on this. But basically, VSWR is most important for transmission. Yes, it has an effect on reception, but nowhere near the effect that it has on transmission. It's just not remotely the same. It's just not remotely the same. So I'm using that one as a receiving antenna. You're always in the comments. What's your thoughts, Bruce, on the much higher SWR on the longer one? 3. It's high, isn't it? I'm interested what your thoughts on it is. Just reading up in the comments now, guys. 2 seconds. What is the FCC you speak of? Interesting, isn't it? Very interesting indeed. Especially with the coax. Now, these are tiny antennas. Now, these are rated very well. You know, TrueRC are a very, very good antenna manufacturer. But the reality is an SWR that high is indicating the antenna is not well. It shouldn't affect the tune of the antenna that much. No, I agree. So something's off, isn't it? You know, at the end of the day, I was putting antennas up at 400 foot away. You know what I mean? Just catching back on the chat. 2 seconds. Does the coax adjust the tune? That's interesting. I'll try that now, Bruce. They are expensive antennas, yes. Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, you know, I do wonder if it's related to the kind of car because it's quite that metal stiff stuff. Right, I'm just going back up. Yes, Peppermint, you can have one of the originals. I owe you more than what you'll be having. You'll probably have 2 of them. You'll be having both, my friend. You really will. Can you set the temperature manually now? PCB way is where I go. That whole touch interface is a bit more. Yeah, we're going down there. GMI. Good evening, Lambert. How are you, my friend? For Express ELRS, what would I say is the best all-round antenna? I do like these Moxon ones, to be honest. I get decent results on them. It's basically a Yagi beam. But the other day I was out using the T on the new spot and fail-safed at 4 kilometers. Depends everywhere else. HDZero, FCC certified. Haven't checked. Yes, it is FCC certified, Bruce. Does shouldn't the coax affect the tune? We'll have a look in a second. They are an expensive antenna. Yeah, what I'll be with the HDMI Peppermint on for the HDZero, I've printed a load of brackets, which I'll be giving you back as well, mate. You'll be ready to go. I'll probably order you as well, if I can and get it in time. I'll get you the proper HDMI cable for the goggles as well. Not the one I've got you. We'll get you the proper one. It is just a ribbon cable. Yeah, it's nice, easy. It's but I'm gonna probably order one of them in. The thing, we'll finish this, and let me get this on and see what that does when I touch the coax. Just see what this does, Bruce. Okay, let me just change the mode on this. Presets. There we go. Hop over to there. Plot. No, Bruce, there's no drastic change. No. There's change, obviously, when you touch the antenna, but... no. No, no change at all. No change at all, Bruce. So I just thought I'd show you that. Interesting. I haven't reached out to TrueRC on this yet because, look, these are quality antennas. They are believed to be very, very good antennas, although that one is showing a very, very high VSWR. It's not been dropped. It's never been flown. This antenna has always been a reception antenna on the Scout. I've never used it as a transmission antenna. So as a reception antenna, it's not going to be a massive problem. However, it is worth noting that these antennas, these two, do behave differently. One is very good, one not so much. That one is well off. And that one has a very steep operating curve. And again, if you were moving off channel 5 on that, you're going to get some very, very big differences. And if you were flying with this antenna on a quad and you were using race channels 1 and 2, you are not getting the best out of the system on this antenna. You're really, really not. Now, I am going to start doing a chart of SWR testing on antennas. It's a plan for me to do it moving forward. Soon adds up. It does. That's the problem. And this is the thing. At these frequencies, it all adds up. It all adds up. And I've been very careful on the tests doing on this. It's a very good bit of kit, to be fair, putting this up. I'm not going to say it's perfect. I'm not going to sit here and say it. You have to make sure it's calibrated properly, which I have been doing. But it has to have lots of options. So, for instance, you can do things on it. You can move through the plots, and then you've got other functions like checking antenna issues, and you can check the length. And it is interesting. It is interesting. I wouldn't have expected that length of coax to make any difference to the antenna, because at the end of the day, it should be tuned at the point there. You know, at the end of the day, it should be tuned at that point. And at 1 gig span, at 6 gigs, it's pretty hard to keep flat. Yeah, it is on any decent gain as well, isn't it? It's not going to be easy to keep that flat on these. That's for sure. And I think these two seem to do a very, very good job. And again, what's interesting is when you do start looking at tests with like linear antennas, they do have a very flat VSWR curve. However, they have very low gain. And at these frequencies, what you tend to find is as the gain comes up, the curve very much kicks in rapidly. So that curve really does become very, very apparent. Not so much at HF frequencies, but certainly up in the gigahertz. Yeah, the Nano VNI. Yeah, there are a lot of good units. You know, this is the honest. I've got the official one. That was the one I decided to go with just to give myself a bit more security. That was the choice I wanted for this unit. And a big thank you to them. I'm going to be doing a review on that because they did me a little bit of a deal, to be fair to him. He really did. So that. Okay, so that's just to share that with you guys. If you've got any questions before we wrap this one up, please do let me know. Even a quarter wave wire becomes inductive at these frequencies, racing above the optimum capacitor, falls below tuned. it all moves in this, and anything at this frequency, it's all hard at this frequency. You go near it, and that's why I was even showing it off the bench. And a lot of my testing I've been doing in free air, I've been mounting it up in free air, because literally, you know, you put your hand even close to it. It's hard to say, because for average Joe like me, what guidance would you go and set an antenna? It's hard. The problem is, what you ideally want is the manufacturer to publish the VSWR curve, because look, having an antenna with a completely flat VSWR curve probably will have a lower gain, so it's not necessarily going to be a better antenna. The data which would be really handy for manufacturers to give would be that this is the peak for this antenna. What would be really good for manufacturers to start publishing with each antenna, as it's made and manufactured and tested, the lowest VSWR at this number. So at least then for that antenna, you can go, right, I'm going to fly this one at that channel. Oh yeah, you know, you put anything near it, you know, it's amazing. Anything goes near these, and that's probably an interesting video in itself, Bruce, isn't it? The effect on how close the antenna is to something. It's really hard to say what to look for in an antenna, because it can look like a heap of crap and be the best antenna that exists, and it could be amazing and has a shocking reading, and all it takes is a single manufacturing error and you're out the door. Tuned flat for the whole 5.8. Yeah, at these size, you know, it's just, the bandwidth is just, it's just impossible. It is. So what, you know, what would be nice to see is manufacturers start to post, you know, this antenna. I know TrueRC do test every one of their antennas, so I'm surprised that's made it through, because I was under the impression every antenna TrueRC make is tested before shipping. And yeah, but it would be good. That would be ideal, but that would then mean a manufacturer testing the VSWR on every antenna. But so what to look for, it's hard to say, but what I would say is I think it would be good to have a bit more clarity to get the most out of it. I think what is interesting in all of the tests I've done is that in all of the antennas I've tested here, and I've got a bunch of Menace RCs I've tried as well, and a bunch of other ones, always hovering around channel 4 and 5 will get you to the closest point of the antenna. They all tend to be tuned for the center of the band, because that's the reality. You're going to tune for the middle of the band and offshoot either side. That's what you're going to aim for. You're going to aim to tune for the middle of the band. And so, you know, one simple method would be to try and aim on channel 4 and 5 as probably the point the antenna is tuned for, unless you're told otherwise. That's probably the best piece of advice I could give, because that's where they should be tuning the center point. TBS Cloverleaf, yeah, if they tell you they're tuned for a specific channel, then go for it. Yeah. Yeah, it's and this is where I think I still argue lower gain will give higher over consistency. Yes, agreed. Again, overall gain will be, because again, when you are forcing the gain up, Rosepan 16 is my favorite channel. But yeah, higher gain is, you know, you are closing things down. You know, if you're picking an antenna that's 4 dB or an antenna that's 7 dB, that 7 dB is coming at a cost. Depends. HDZero does appear to reduce as you move up the band, but it's minimal. It's nothing I'd be concerned about. And then you're trading off actual power versus irradiated power from the loss of the antenna. I would rather yes, what I'm thinking, Bruce, though, is with the higher gain, you're tending to be, the radiation pattern is being pushed in a certain way, isn't it? The way they tend to do it on these. on that, it's an interesting conundrum on HDZero. So HDZero, for instance, has HDZero has less output the higher up the band, but I'm not seeing dramatic differences on my proper RF testing. So the question is, are you going to lose more through a high loss antenna on R1 than going to R4, say with this tuned antenna, which gives you the best conversion to RF? So it is an interesting conversation, isn't it? You know, where's the midpoint? Where is the peak? HDZero seems to drop off a lot more at channel R7, R8. So I think I'm going to be flying these two at R4 now, is what I'm going to do on these two antennas. Well, one of them is going to be receiving. I'm going to pick the best tuned one for R4 and then put that on the VTX and then fly the other two as receive antennas. And R4 is where I'm going to be aiming on. Keep the wet string again. And the problem is, I could buy 10 of these and they'd all be different. And that's the problem with antennas. You never know if you've got a good one. You just don't. Antennas are just so complicated. So complicated. They really are. Wi-Fi is actually towards the bottom of the band. However, it's now also towards the top of the band as well. The Wi-Fi is everywhere, basically. Wi-Fi spans from 5,000 to 5835 these days. It's freaking everywhere. Okay, catching on the chat. Carl, haven't tried the TBSs. That'll be interesting. GMI, Peppermint, Carl. Yeah, it's all the way up. The Wi-Fi literally is everywhere now, and with there's a new standard which is UNI 4 that pretty much goes up to 6 gigs. It's everywhere. The Wi-Fi is just everywhere. There's just no hiding from it now, no matter what you do. Okay, so Lawbart. Hiya, Lawbart. How you doing? Stick it back through the Orcas and you will lose the tunnel effect. I'm guessing you will, yeah. Yeah, you know, it's very noticeable having gone on to them at the start. I can well imagine them fading away into the background if you're using them every day. The only thing I will wonder is how it's going to be for people who hop between goggles. Again, it's not going to be everyone. At the end of the day, right? Okay, so these are Peppermint's goggles, and look, I'm going to give an honest review of my opinion. And Peppermint will make his own opinion on them, and if he doesn't like them, he'll sell them. It's as simple as that. He's not going to have any trouble selling them if he don't like them. There'll be loads of people who'll rip their arm off to buy them. Might even be me. I will give my honest opinion on these goggles of how I feel as a FPV pilot, as a user. But at the end of the day, that is an opinion of mine. I'm not going to say if you should or shouldn't buy them. I don't tend to do that. I'm just going to tell you, for me, what I feel having spent the time I've spent with them. I will also put in there about, and I will specifically say in that will that tunneling effect fade with period of use? Potentially. I haven't had them long enough to make that decision. What I also, though, can say is my preference from a goggle is that you have screens hanging in a black background. And that is what I'm used to. Not in DJI, obviously, because there's no black background. It's just screen. But my preference is black background with screens. And again, you may fall through it, but over time. But it's going to be preference. At the end of the day, everything is preference. Make the decision. There's still a very, very good set of goggles, and it's going to be interesting to see what they are. You know, it's really going to be interesting. Okay, guys, before I wrap this one up, we're going to finish at past. We've got 4 minutes. If there's any questions, please do put them in the chat. Good evening, David. How are you? We've nearly gone 2.5 hours tonight. 3 minutes to go. Any questions, guys? What's the current draw for 1 watt, 1 hour Express ELRS? 1 watt for 1 hour. I haven't. I'll have to check what the draw is. I will have to check what the draw is. The current draw. I've got a bunch of emails I got to catch up on this week. I've missed so many emails in the last week. It's been so busy. It's crazy. I am, yes. Carmen, let's go to Sweden. Is it possible to meet up if I come down to UK sometimes? Absolutely. I'm always up for a coffee. Ask Peppermint in the week, although I couldn't convince him into one. Yes, I am feeling better. Mostly, I'm still rough. I'll be honest, it's left me with some weird type cold sleep crap thing where I just feel knackered all of the time and I'm not sleeping very well, and I seem to have sinus issues, which I didn't have before it, but other than that, I'm fine. I'm not going to call it long. I'm not going to call it long human malware because I think that's a bit different. But it's definitely left me not 100%. But it is what it is. What can you do? What about the new? I talked about that earlier, my friend. So they are delayed. The new VRXs are delayed for an undisclosed amount of time. Hopefully, they'll be here by March. Good job. I'm in Yorkshire. You'd never escape me. I do travel the UK at times quite regularly, so I will give you a shout. GMI, I do travel around. I need to go up and see Ben as well. I do need to go up and see Ben at 3DXR. But I am going to order that cable. You know, at the end of the day, everything is preference. When you do a review, you know, I will always say how it is. I don't want to say anything that upsets someone who's bought a product or HDMI solution. Yeah, put it in the Discord, definitely. And I have a Fusion cover. Ooh, 3D printed one. If so, I can print it for Peppermint. Although I wish, right? Here's something I want. Can someone make a filament this color, please? Please, can we have a filament this color? I need to buy a new Express ELRS module because I don't want to update my Hopper model AIO Whoop board to the 2.0 firmware because 4.3 runs like a pig on it. I'm just going to have my videos. Yeah, right. That's a sucker. At least they're cheap. Who's got a link to Man's Discord? It should be in the description of this video. It should be in the description of this video. But if it isn't, I need to find it. Let me find it. I'll post it again. Invite people. We'll send an invite. Copy. Here we go. Let me find the chat. There it is. Will it even let me make a link? Boom. Also, I need to make Peppermint. Peppermint should be a moderator by now on this. GMI. There's a few people who I need to sort out. Sorted Peppermint. Where's bloody he's disappeared to as well? Where's Thing? He might be already. Where is he? Where is he hiding? There's someone I'm looking for. Someone I'm looking for. Now, I've got something. Oh, thank you, Carl. I've just had a notification pop up on my phone. That's very kind. Very much thank you for that. I stopped crashing. Almost too expensive. Just stop flying. It's easier than crashing. Yeah, we covered a lot tonight. We really have. Okay, guys, that's it from me. So I've got the Orcas to get done because I need to get these back to Peppermint. Again, a massive thank you, Peppermint. I'll have a proper chat with you when we go back up and get it sat down. Again, at the end of the day, a product isn't for everyone. My opinion will be mine. Peppermint will be doing his review as well. Go on, Peppermint, do a review on it. I want you to see it as well. Thank you for everyone for watching. If you are new here, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. Let me just get the right window up for the end of YouTube. Here it is. If you're not, thank you for watching, as always. If you want to support the channel, there are links to Patreon as well as Buy Me a Coffee. As soon as the first batches of these are ready, I will be talking to the Patreons. The Patreons will have first access. There are only 20 of them coming first of all. That will be the first batch. Depending on how quickly they go, I'm omitting things with it now. It's good, it's solid. It's a good thing with a PCB ruler. There won't be 20 for sale because I do have some I have to give away for some people I've promised. I think it's probably going to be 15 for sale. So A, I want to keep one for myself. And B, I'll be handing it out. This week, there'll be another Express ELRS video coming up. Stay safe, everyone. Look after yourselves. And I will speak to you again same time, same place next week. Here's the button. There it is. Button 1. Going to stop the recording. Here we go. Button 2. Stay safe.